By far, the most popular theories I've seen in the entire Kingdom Hearts community in recent memory are the ones revolving around the Master of Masters identity. Who is the Master of Master? Is it Demyx? Is it Sora? Is he light itself? Ever since the Lucia reveal in Kingdom Hearts 3's epilogue, everyone has been trying to predict the next big twist Nomura has up his sleeve for the upcoming Kingdom Hearts saga, the upcoming Phase 2. There's a lot of different theories about the Master of Masters, but the most popular one I've seen has to be about Sora being the Master of Master. Yes, our protagonist, the main character, the Kingdom Key wielder himself, Sora, being the Master of Masters, the same one we see in Kingdom Hearts Key back cover. It's a pretty crazy theory. There's another theory that's pretty close that I may talk about another time, but this by far has to be the most talked about theory I've seen in the entire community post Kingdom Hearts 3. Every single live stream I get asked this question, and most comment sections I get asked this question. I see this theory just about everywhere. Could Sora truly be the Master of Masters? Well, let's talk about it. If you haven't heard yet, we currently have a Kingdom Hearts combo contest ongoing. No current deadline, but if you wish to submit, do it sooner rather than later. Post your combo from any Kingdom Hearts game using the hashtag KHComboContest. If you need any more info, refer to the link in the description. But moving along. Sora is a very curious character. The concept behind his character is that he is meant to be just a simple, good-hearted boy who isn't special, that just so happens to have a Keyblade. This was intentional to make the character seem a little more relatable. Despite Sora showing a clear prowess with the Keyblade, according to series director Tetsuya Nomura, back in Birth by Sleep's Ultimania, it's due to his strength of heart and being connected to so many people. The exact quote in question saying he's just a normal boy you could find anywhere. I wanted to make Sora a character that the player could take onto themselves and feel that you don't have to be special, but connect to many people and you will realize your secret potential. He's a character that shows genuine compassion and care for others, and through those connections and the power of his friends is able to realize his potential within. This is what directly leads to moments where he is breaking down in Kingdom Hearts 3, where all his friends seemingly perish right before him, or moments in Kingdom Hearts 2 when he is on his knees begging the Saiyaks about where's Kairi. During these moments there was minimal power of hearts, power of friendship, just him, his feelings, and that's how he felt. Alone. I'm worthless. That is his character arc. However, this is a Sora we've seen for years. Since most of us were young, we've seen him with Dawn and Goofy, Riku and Kairi, other Disney characters. In Remind, when presented with an opportunity to save Kairi, he had the resolve after everything to throw it all to the side, just to save her, sacrificing himself in the process. Now he is truly all alone. In the secret ending, there's no Donald, no Goofy, just him, and likely Sora and the Master. He's alone as far as he is concerned. Comparing a character like Sora to the Master of Masters, who we've seen very minimal of on screen in the Kingdom Hearts series, but when he is on screen, has a presence to him that can't be ignored. A presence of importance, power, experience. The Master of Master is the creator of the Book of Prophecies. This Book of Prophecies details events of the future, and he gave his 6 apprentices roles to act out before he would eventually disappear to who knows where. Some of these roles would directly conflict with each other, leading to a Keyblade war during that time period, while being very desperate for guidance from their master, who is now gone as far as they know. One character in specific, Lucia, got potentially one of the most important roles, to pass down the Keyblade that he forged, the same Keyblade Xehanort wields. This Keyblade has a gazing eye in it that can see the future, which is what he uses to write the Book of Prophecies. The Master let the Keyblade War play out, and instead wants to focus on what comes after, and gave Master Ava the role of keeping the light alive. We later find out that through flashback cutscenes with the Master and Luxu and Union Cross, that the Master has been dealing with Keyblade Wars since he was a kid, and that rather than the war finally beginning, it might finally come to an end, making us think that the Master may not be so evil after all, and his role in the world is to stop all the constant fighting among Keyblade wielders, but he has a long plan in place to act that out. Which leads us to where we are now. Sora gone and the foretellers back in play, and so is he, the Master, as we see in the secret ending. Why is the Master here in Quadratum? What does he want with Sora or perhaps Riku and Yozora? Maybe the Master is a future version of Sora who wants to stop all the fighting. A version of him who's seen all the wars and is damaged because of it and still has a plan. If this turned out being the case, this would be a very different version of Sora than the one we're currently playing as, which would make the surprise a lot more, well, surprising. But the Master does not share that many mannerisms that Sora does. Perhaps maybe at most a sense of humor, but outside of that, nothing about the Master for me screams Sora. But there are some interesting scenes that have, some very slight similarities, but maybe we're reading a little too much into that. On the other end of things, with Sora being in Quadratum, let's talk about that. This is an interesting opportunity to see what Sora is capable of by himself. It's almost as if Nomura is challenging the character's own ideals, which has made many fans excited and has plenty of people fascinated by this upcoming saga. But let's go back a little bit. Sora is perceived as nobody special? Well, in that case, I think the contrast between him and Yozora should be fairly interesting, given the way Yozora has been introduced almost like he's supposed to be a parallel of Sora in some sort of way. Saying the exact same Kingdom Hearts 1 opening quote Sora once did, setting this tone of mystery that makes him far more interesting than he was previously before Remind. Compare this along with the fact that Verum Rex translates to True King in Latin, and take the word True King and compare it to all the crown imagery we have for Sora in box arts, different artwork, and in the games themselves. The point I'm attempting to push here is that while Sora isn't meant to be anybody special per se, they are also actively testing his ideologies as well, leaving him in a place without his friends, having what could just be another version of him trying to hurt him or save him in a very weird and backwards way. Basically, it's not, say, 100% out the ballpark to think Nomura could test the viewer, challenge them on what they know about Sora, which seems to be exactly what they might plan on doing. I'd imagine this is where common ground for the theory that Sora is the Master of Masters does start. The idea that they are trying to challenge the narrative, test our knowledge, and about the changes that are said to be coming in the series for Phase 2, introducing a world like Quadratum is already a big change. A world that is deemed by the rest of the cast as the other side, a world of fiction, definitely changes things up quite a bit. Another could be our main character fighting against himself in a more literal sort of way. Personally, I'm not super fond of Sora being the Master of Master. That's my personal take. However, I don't think it's entirely impossible, because in Kingdom Hearts, we've had some pretty crazy things happen, like time travel being introduced as a main plot point, Xigbar being Luxu, Xehanort using his infinite selves as members for the organization, allowing both his younger and older self to coexist at the same time for battle purposes. I mean, honestly, when you talk about it out loud, the whole concept of nobody's heartless, it all sounds crazy. So is Sora being the Master of Master really that crazy? I'd probably say it is, to be honest. But it's not the most far-fetched thing to say that the protagonist of the series, who is one of the most powerful characters we know about, is just a young version of the Master who seems to be pretty powerful and knowledgeable, themselves. That's the perspective that I do kind of understand from some people, but I just don't see much build up for this theory myself. And the little bit of examples I do see aren't convincing enough to make the full theory convincing. Because the fact that we have like very minimal Master of Masters scenes in the first place is probably what makes this really hard to drive home for me. But perhaps as I see a lot more of the Master in Phase 2 and see a lot more of his mannerisms, a lot more of, well, him, and learn more about him, then perhaps this theory could build up to be something even grander than it already is, because a lot of people already talk about it. I think if they wanted to add even more layers to Sora's character, they can do it without making the Master some older version of him. The reason I went on that tangent earlier about the foundations of Sora's character is because that's kind of what I love about him, which making the Master, you know, him would fundamentally change. I'm all for crazy and wacky things to happen in the Kingdom Hearts series, and they have without completely changing some characters we love dearly, or whose stories we already know a lot about. Sora is a character who is appealing not because he's super duper powerful or because he has some strong lineage, but for me at least is because he's been there since the beginning and has stayed true to himself even through some of his toughest moments. He has moments where he just gives up, he has moments where he's sad, where he is hurting, where he cares so much for his friends even if it is actively causing him harm. He puts all the weight on his shoulders even if he can't handle it all, but despite that he tries his best to smile through it and be a beacon of light for other people. And when he has the chance to make things right, he does not miss out on it. Sora is a character I've definitely loved to the core since I was like 4 years old, and a character I still cherish and love deeply to this day. I think if he turned out to be someone like the Master of Masters or some future version of him who then went to the past and made the Book of Prophecies to see the future that he came from, I just think it would be a little bizarre. I would not prefer for this to happen, but if it did, I'd try my best to not completely be dismissive of it, because who knows, I could open up to it and maybe it wouldn't change his core character as much as I'm thinking. Maybe instead of him being a future Sora, perhaps he's a future Sora where all his friends did die, or a future Sora from another world line where he was chosen to be a Keyblade wielder by Terra. I'm not super crazy into world line stuff either. I think the Master personally should just be his own character and will be a lot more interesting if he was just his own character, because I think Ray Chase does an amazing job voicing the character, and when I see this character move and speak to people, it's hard for me to think he's Sora, because based on his mannerisms alone, the Master definitely comes off as more of a arrogant, cocky, and comes off in a condescending sort of way, and I see absolutely none of that when I look at Sora, at least not right now. I also don't think Nomura would pull the same thing he did with Lushu's reveal twice, but who really knows at the end of the day. These were just my thoughts and attempted perspective at a theory I hear talked about so much. Definitely the most popular theory I've seen in the Kingdom Hearts community post Kingdom Hearts 3. I've been doing this little mini series thingy where I talk about popular or interesting theories in the Kingdom Hearts community. We did one in the past about a theory revolving around the interaction between Maleficent, Pete, and Dark Riku in the Big Hero 6 world in Kingdom Hearts 3. So if you want to go ahead and check that out, you know, maybe check it out in the end card or in the card on the top right, or just whenever you have the time. But if you have any interesting theories you see around in the community you'd like me to talk about or give my thoughts on, please let me know down below in the comment section. Another thing to comment is telling me if you think Sora could actually be the Master of Masters. What is your interest in wanting him to be the Master? I'm curious about your thoughts. If you have any interesting theories you see around the community you'd like me to talk about or give my thoughts on, please let me know down below in the comment section. Another thing to comment is telling me if you think Sora could actually be the Master of Masters. What is your interest in wanting him to be the Master of Masters? What's the possibilities? What do you think about this topic in general? I'm curious about your thoughts. Other than that, if you enjoyed today's video, you already know what to do. Leave a like, share the video with a friend or family member, and last but not least, if you have not already and want to become a part of the union, all you have to do is hit a red subscribe button down below. My name is Prodigy, and I will talk to you guys soon. Peace out, you guys. Bye.